The Health app, it's that little white app with a heart on it on your iPhone that you've probably seen thousands of times now and probably don't click into all that often. But the Health app is actually really useful and way more intricate than you might think. In fact, I think that's why a lot of people don't use the app, because they go into it once and find it overwhelming. Or they assume that by putting health information into their phone, it's going to somehow end up in the wrong hands. I'm going to cover the Health app in detail in this video and explain to you why you should start using it. Oh, very quickly, I'm making this video at the end of June 2024. iOS 17 is the current most up-to-date operating system, but iOS 18 has just been released in developer beta and will be public in a couple of months. The Health app has had some changes, but they're mostly cosmetic, and in order for me to make sure that this video stays relevant for as long as possible, I will point out any differences between the two versions as we go along, but I'll be making the video primarily using iOS 18. Oh, and also I might bounce between my real data and the data that I have in a demo account where appropriate. Okay, let's get into it. So when you open the app, you land on the summary page, but just to point out, you navigate by either tapping on the options at the bottom of the screen or by tapping on your profile in the upper right. Let's begin by taking a look at the summary page. This top section is where all of your favorite data is kept, the information that you want to see most often, and you choose what lives here. Also, here's our first key difference between the Health app on iOS 17 and iOS 18. In iOS 17, this section is called your favorites. You can edit it by tapping the edit button, and then you star or unstar the data that you want to favorite, but you can't change their order on the summary page. In iOS 18, this section is called your pinned content. You edit it by pinning or unpinning data, and you can rearrange the content here. There's also a lot more data available here than in iOS 17. Immediately underneath the pinned or favorite section is an option called All Health Data, which is where you can see all of the health data that your phone is gathering about you in a much more exhaustive list. Underneath that, you have your trends. For example, my device often notices trends with my sleep because I wear my Apple Watch to bed. Your device will typically try and show you the health trends that it believes are most relevant to you, but just like you had in the previous health data section, there is a Show All Health Trends button that you can press to see everything. Underneath that is a section called Highlights. This is your health over time. So this is where your device has been keeping a log of your health data for long enough to be able to give you some snapshots or some highlights about how your health is looking on a broader scale. Obviously, if you've only just started using the Health app, or perhaps you've only just started using an iPhone, this section may well be empty and it will need to populate over time. Again, your device will show you the highlights that it believes are most relevant to you, but there is a Show All Highlights button that you can press to see everything. Below that are some options to get more from the Health app. Your device will generally look to encourage you to enable health-related settings that you perhaps haven't enabled here, as well as giving you the option to access your health records by connecting to a health provider. For example, I use an Apple Watch, but I don't have the hand washing feature enabled because personally it just feels a bit too much like nannying to me, but I could enable this here if I wanted to. I also don't have fall detection enabled, which is where if my iPhone or Apple Watch detect that I've taken a particularly bad fall during a workout, my watch can call the emergency services if I need it to. Again, I could enable this here if I wanted to. In the Access Your Records section, when you tap Get Started, you may be asked to allow location settings for the app, which you'll need to do. You'll then search for the hospital or health provider that you want to access the records for. I think this is probably more of a US thing. Here in the UK, there are very few options to choose from and certainly no options that would be relevant to me. Underneath that is your health checklist. If you tap into this, you can set up your iPhone and Apple Watch, if you have one, to help keep an eye on things for you. I would definitely recommend that you have a look through this list and make sure that you've activated or deactivated anything that you want or don't want. For example, I already mentioned that I don't use fall detection on my device, but I do have the emergency SOS set up. I do have my medical ID set up, and I would definitely recommend that you do the same. This is where you put information about yourself, including contact details for your next of kin that first responders can access on the lock screen of your device if you're ever involved in an accident or need some kind of emergency care. The options that you see in here will vary depending on the device that you've got. For example, crash detection is only relevant on devices that support the crash detection feature, but that's where your device can identify if you've been involved in a serious car crash and call the emergency services if you need help. There are things like walking steadiness notifications, high heart rate notifications, low heart rate notifications, ECG information, blood oxygen information, etc. You can see that there are lots of different things to choose from here. Actually, whilst I'm in here, there is one setting that I'm going to disable, and that's noise notifications. I personally don't find them especially useful. These days, my watch tends to tell me about excessive noise when I'm either using a hairdryer or when our 9-month-old twins are screaming at me, and I don't need my watch to tell me that it's noisy. Further down the summary page, there are articles about various health topics like hearing health, cardio fitness, tracking your medications, understanding your vitals, all that good stuff. Finally, at the bottom of this page, there is an apps section. This is where your phone will recommend apps that you might want to download from the App Store to try out, and all of these apps will be compatible with the Health app. And what I mean by that is that they can either read, write, or read and write data to and from the Health app. For example, you may have bought an accessory like a set of Bluetooth scales that would come with an app, and that app would want to automatically record your weight data into the Health app. So that's the summary, and just to point out, if you want to return to the top of the summary page, all you have to do is tap the summary button down at the bottom left. Let's take a look next at the sharing section. The sharing section is where you can share your health data, and there are 3 types of sharing that will happen in here. You can either share your health data with another person, or somebody else can share their health data with you. So you may be looking after somebody, and that person may have agreed that you can access their health data. You can see here that there are 2 options. You can either share your health data with another person, and you would follow the steps to locate that person and begin the process of sharing your health data with them, or you can ask someone to share their data with you. That person will receive a prompt on their device that they can either accept or decline. Beneath that, you have an option called Apps. On iOS 17, it's called Apps and Services, but it shows exactly the same information, and this is showing you all of the apps on your device that are connected somehow to the Health app. For example, if I tap into the ECG option, you can see all of the recorded data that's been captured by that function. The ECG function on your Apple Watch is a manual function, so this is something that I would have chosen to do at some point in time, and I can scroll through and see all of the different readings that I've taken. Or I can take a look at an app like Lumen, for example, and I can see that I've given Lumen read access to lots of different health data, and I can scroll down and choose what I would or wouldn't like Lumen to be able to access. I can turn everything off if I wish in one go, or I can go and manually choose what I would like Lumen to be able to access. In the data from Lumen section, this is going to tell me what data is being captured by the app and then passed over to the Health app. For example, a set of Bluetooth weighing scales would capture your weight and store that on a third-party app, and that app would most likely then share that data with the Health app. I would definitely recommend that you take some time to have a look through this list just to make sure that you're clear about what information is being shared with apps, and likewise what information is being pulled from apps into the Health app. You can, of course, make any changes that you wish in here, but do keep in mind that any changes that you make may impact the functionality of third-party apps. I'm going to go back all the way to the sharing page and just show you the final option in here, which is called Research Studies. This is exactly what it sounds like. Any research studies that you've been invited to join that are compatible with your iPhone and the Health app will show in this section here. The final section to show you here is the Browse section. This is where you can browse through all of the different data points captured within the Health app, and it's broken down into categories. The categories are pretty self-explanatory, I think, and you can either choose to tap into them and scroll through all of the various data that's captured, or you can tap the search box at the top of the screen and search for something specific. Before we continue, let's talk metabolic health for a moment, and to do that, I'd like to introduce you to Lumen, who are sponsoring this video. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath, and on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. Oh, and yes, the app syncs with the Apple Health app. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements. The way that I use it is I breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so I know exactly what's going on in my body in real time, and then Lumen gives me tips to keep me on top of my health. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going, and because your metabolism is at the center of everything that your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to real benefits like easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. So if you'd like to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/honesttech to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/honesttech for 15% off your purchase. So really, at its core, the Health app is all about capturing data about you and your health, and then putting that data into an easy-to-view format so that you can better make sense of your health. Data is added to the Health app in a number of different ways. Much of it is added automatically. For example, if you use an Apple Watch, your Apple Watch is going to be capturing huge amounts of health data about you as you go about your day, and it will be sharing that data with the Health app. Your iPhone by itself will capture a certain amount of health data about you, things like the number of steps that you've walked, the number of stairs that you've climbed in a day, all that kind of stuff. If you have third-party accessories like smart scales or a Bluetooth-enabled blood pressure meter or a smart ring, for example, they can all automatically capture data and then provide that data to your Health app. You can also manually input data if you wish. Let me show you a few common examples of data and how you would work with it in the Health app. If I tap into activity, for example, you can see that there are a number of data points in here. I can see my activity, my active energy, my physical effort, my standing minutes, my standing hours, my resting energy, the number of steps that I've walked today, my walking and running distance, my exercise minutes, and the number of flights of stairs that I've climbed. I'll choose active energy as an example. You can see that in here at the top of the screen, I can choose to view my active energy on a daily basis, where I can see the hours in a day, or a weekly basis, where I can see the days in the past week, or a monthly basis, where I can see each individual day over the past month. If I look at 6 months, this gets broken down on a weekly basis, but showing the last 6 months. If I look at this on a yearly basis, it's going to be shown under the different months of the year. Beneath that, you have your data highlights, and this is exactly the same as the data that we saw in the summary. It's just that the highlights here are specific to my active energy. If I scroll down, I can get an explanation of active energy. This is really helpful if there's any data in here that you're unfamiliar with. Have a look in that particular section because chances are the Health app will tell you what you need to know. Beneath that, I can see apps that are relevant to my active energy, and I could follow the link here to download them, and I can add them to my favorites or to my pinned in iOS 18. At the very bottom of this page, I can view all of the data that's been captured about my active energy, and if I tap on edit, I can choose to delete some of the data if I wish. This is a really important point to make. I think a lot of people think that the Health app is very much a locked down app, but ultimately this is your data, and if there is anything in here that you don't want, there is usually a method of getting rid of that data. Under data sources and access, I can see specifically for active energy which apps and services are able to read data and where data sources are coming from. In general, for me, much of this data is going to be coming from my Apple Watch. I can also tap into unit, and I can change the unit of measurement here if I wish. Activity is a great example to look at here because there's lots of easy to understand and useful data that's generally collected automatically. So if you own an Apple Watch, you'll already be familiar with the concept of your activity rings. There are 3 rings, and the idea is that you want to try and close all of them every day. The red ring is your move ring, and this is the number of calories you're burning every day. Your exercise ring is a predefined period of time every day that you would look to exercise for. Your device will identify exercise as your heart rate being above a certain amount for that period of time. And your stand hours is the number of hours in a day during which you stand for a period of a minute or more. The idea here is that you're looking to try and do this for around 12 hours each day. The values associated with each ring are set by default, but you can change them. It just isn't necessarily obvious how you would do that from here. You actually need to leave the Health app in order to do this. So I'm going to come out of the Health app for just a moment, and I'm going to look for the Fitness app on my iPhone. I'll tap into it, and you can see that activity is front and center at the very top of the summary page within the Fitness app. I'll tap into the activity section and then scroll to the bottom of this page, and there is an option here called Change Goals. You can use the plus and minus buttons to change the goal for each day. If you're using iOS 17, the options here are set as the same for all 7 days of the week, but the really good news is that in iOS 18, you have much more customizable options here. You can set different goals for different days of the week. So if you know that during the week you're less active than you are at the weekend, for example, or there are certain days where you know that you're going to push yourself more, you'll be able to set that up. Likewise, you also will be able to have rest days, which is exactly what it sounds like. You'll be able to pause your rings for a day, week, month, or whatever you need, and keep your move streak going whilst not being pestered every day to try and close your rings. Let's jump back into the Health app and let me show you how you can add a data point. To do this, I'm going to go to the Browse section of the Health app and I'm going to tap into Body Measurements. I'm then going to tap into Weight. I mentioned a couple of times already in the video that there are things like Bluetooth-enabled smart scales that, once given access to your health data, can automatically add data to sections like weight. But if you don't have one of those, you're going to want to know how to do this the manual way instead. Very simply, all you would do is tap the Add Data button in the top right of the screen. You can see that your phone will pre-populate the date and time that you're capturing this information, but if you're putting information in that you captured earlier, for example, you can change those. You would then simply input the value and press the Add button at the top of the screen. The data point has been added, and you can do this as often as you like. We've already talked about a couple of the health categories, activity and body measurements, but let's talk about some of the others because some of these function very differently from the others on here. Medications is a very different section to the others because this is not only about capturing your historical data, it's also about logging medication that you're taking and ensuring that you're staying on top of them. To get started in medications, the first thing that we're going to want to do is add a medication. To do that, scroll until you see the Add Medication button and tap on it. You'll need to give the medication a name, which is exactly what it sounds like. So I'm going to add a nose spray that I take to treat hay fever. I'll press Next once I've created the medication. On this next page, we'll choose the medication type. You have your most common forms up at the top of the page, like capsules, tablets, liquids, and topical medication, but there are lots of different options that you can choose in the More Forms section as well. This is a spray, so I'm going to choose spray and then press Next. I can then input the strength. This particular medication is 50 micrograms, so I'll choose that and press Next. I then need to decide how frequently I'm going to take this medication. In the frequency section, you can choose at regular intervals or specific days of the week or as needed, and you can choose from lots of different intervals to set this up exactly how you need it. You can choose the time of day that you'd like to take the medication, and for this particular medication, this would be something that I would take first thing in the morning and in the evening. So I would input a morning time first for one spray, and then I would press Add a time to do the same for the evening. I'll then press Next. You can then choose the shape of the medication. This isn't really relevant for the medication that I'm adding, but you can see that if this was a pill, for example, there are lots of different options for you to choose from here. And on the next page, you can even choose the color to help you identify your medication. On the final page, you'll be asked to check that the details here are correct. You can choose a different display name to the name of the meds. So I could just put hay fever spray, for example, and in the notes, you can add any important notes that you need to add. I'll press Done when I'm happy with everything. So my Health app now knows that I'm taking a hay fever spray, but that's only part of the process here, because once I've created a medication, I then want to ensure that I'm logging the use of that medication as and when I take it. The way that I would do that is here on the medications page, you can see the hay fever spray that we just created with a small plus button next to it. I would tap on that. I can choose to either skip this particular medication or confirm that it was taken. There is also a Log All as Taken button at the top of the screen if you're taking multiple meds. I'll tap on Taken, then choose Done to confirm that I've taken a dosage. Also, a handy little tip, you can use the Medications app on your Apple Watch to log medications from an associated Apple Watch if you wish, which is much easier if you're on the go. Or you can access Siri and say Log My Medications, which will prompt you to open the Medications app. Another section that is very different from the others in the Health app is the mental well-being section. In here, you can see information like the time that you spent in daylight that day, which your phone or your watch will automatically gather from exposure to ambient light. You can see your exercise minutes in here because, of course, this does link through to your mental well-being, and you can also see your sleep data in here. But you can also log your state of mind. This is a new feature that appeared in iOS 17. To do this, you would tap on the State of Mind section and then tap on Log. You can then begin the process of logging either an emotion or a mood, with an emotion referring to how you feel right now in the moment, and a mood referring to how you felt in the day overall. So I might say how I feel right now, and I can use a sliding scale to choose from very unpleasant all the way up to very pleasant. I can then choose from a number of different words that would describe the feeling for why I feel slightly pleasant. Maybe I'm excited, joyful, or confident, whatever it might be. I can then choose to answer what's having the biggest impact on my mental well-being, whether that's my self-care, my community, my family, my work, travel, or whatever would be relevant. It only takes a minute or so to input this information, and once you've done that, your information is logged within the app. Just like all of the other data that you capture within the Health app, this will make more sense to you over time as you begin to gather and aggregate more data together. Your device can even begin to pull this data together to give you information about your risk of anxiety or depression, which would be in the section on this page. Nutrition is where you can go and input data about all of the different nutritional values that you're consuming on a daily basis. You can, of course, do this on a per nutrition basis here in the app. I'll be honest, I think the way that most people tend to use this is they use a third-party app to log their diet, and that app will then automatically break the meals that you log within the app down into their nutritional values and record all of that information in here. Sleep is a section that I think is really useful. I wear my Apple Watch to bed, and so my Apple Watch logs my sleep automatically every night. And as a parent to twin babies, who are currently 9 months old as I'm making this video, I can tell you that it didn't surprise me in the slightest to watch my sleep pattern change dramatically over the course of the last 9 months. If you're interested, I'm getting a lot less sleep these days, and I didn't need my phone to tell me that. Also, if you do choose to track your sleep using the Health app, I would recommend that you scroll down to the section that says your schedule, and you can edit your sleeping schedule in here. So you can see that I have a bedtime of 10:30 every night and a waking time of 6 a.m. The idea here is that my alarm is automatically set for me every morning without me having to do anything, and my devices will automatically go into sleep mode as soon as 10:30 hits. You don't have to use this if you don't want to. You could, of course, manually activate sleep mode. It's just that I find it much easier to do it this way. A part of the Health app that I think is massively underused is the symptoms section. For example, earlier this year, I found that I was getting a lot of headaches, and it was only when I started to track the frequency and severity of the headaches here in the Health app that I was able to identify a pattern with how and when I was getting them. It turned out that I had an issue with my sinuses, which my GP probably would have identified, but it also made it much easier for me to get a feel for what was going on by logging the symptoms here in the app. You can see that there are a number of different options for you to choose from abdominal cramps to tightening of the chest, to coughing and dizziness, hair loss, loss of smell, loss of taste, back pain, night sweats. There's a wealth of different symptoms that you can choose from here, so you should be able to find something that matches whatever is going on with you. For all of these options, you're simply going to tap into the relevant symptom and then press the Add Data button in the upper right corner. Each one of these has a specific severity scale that you can choose from, so choose whatever is relevant for you and then go ahead and add the data. Again, like everything else that we've talked about, the more data that you add here, the more useful this is going to be to you over time. So the last two things I want to talk about with regard to the Health app are the sync across your different devices and security and privacy with regard to the app. The app started out on iPhone, but since then there is a version of the app that you can also access on your iPad. I think that for day-to-day use of the app, logging your medications, quickly glancing at information, the app on your iPhone is the perfect place for it to be. But if you want to sit and spend time looking at the data in a bit more detail and you have an available iPad, I think it is a much better experience. Everything works exactly the same way. You can just see that the app is laid out slightly differently in so much as you have a sidebar rather than options at the bottom of the screen. There currently isn't a Health app for the Mac. In terms of data protection and security, I always feel a bit funny talking about things like this because if anyone has it in their head that Apple is going to be using and abusing your data, there is nothing that I can say here that's going to make you think differently. However, what I will do instead is include a link in the description of this video to a white paper that Apple wrote specifically about the Health app and privacy. In a nutshell, almost all of the processing with regard to your health data is handled on your device, and the data itself is handled in a secure part of your device as well, so it isn't accessible by or readable by anyone at Apple. When the data is synced across different devices using iCloud, this is done using encryption. So again, Apple doesn't have access to your health data, and they're not able to share it with anyone without your express consent. In other words, your data is as secure as it could possibly be within the Health app. So really, that's everything to talk about with regards to the Health app. There aren't really any tips and tricks for me to share with you. It is what it is. It's a place on your iPhone to store all of the important health-related data about you and access that information later on or share it with other people as you need to. Hopefully, though, this has given you an idea of what you can do within the Health app and given you an understanding of how to use it more to your benefit. What do you think? After watching this video, is the Health app something that you plan to make use of? Or is there anything that you think I should have mentioned here? Drop me a comment and let me know. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.